Retail investors are obviously scared for good reason during crypto winter, but institutional investment has made some big moves, right? We're seeing BlackRock. I mean, we've had Visa, we've had Disney, we've had big corporations. I guess my question is, do we think that this FTX scandal is going to change this way this sort of institutional investment is viewing the space, or are they just 100% in no matter what?
Well, institutional investment is a very broad category. So there's really savvy investors who've been in, the crypto markets, or at least looking at them for a decade. And I mean, because institution, you can include, very early venture companies and hedge funds in the crypto space, and investment banks. And then, you can talk about the ones that are, Johnny come latelys, like, big brands and who are just dabbling and saying, gee, what does the metaverse mean? Will NFTs help me with loyalty in the game? So the professional investors typically are the ones who are going to be buying at the bottom and selling at the top. And retail historically is the least informed. And they typically, they buy in when they hear that their neighbor made money. And so they end up, FOMOing it at the top and then panic selling at the bottom. And it's sad, but that happens in the stock market. It happens in, a lot of things. And, there are, shows that try to teach them not to do that. But that's typically how human behavior is. So, there was a funny New Yorker style cartoon that showed two tables. One said Bitcoin for sale, $69,000, had, lines around it. And it said Bitcoin for sale, $20,000, and nobody was in line.
Right. Well, it's that herd mentality. It's interesting the way you characterize institutional investment too, because no one's described it like that to me yet. But I haven't had someone as experienced as you. So, okay, let's talk about institutional investment then. Do you think there's a bit of that herd mentality as well? Like, is it like nobody wants to? Like, it's funny because I've been researching Theranos and I watched, the TV show and everything. And it's like once you get like one big name, it just seems like everybody, they stop doing the due diligence and they're like, oh, Walgreens is I'm in. It just seems like once you get the first one, people just kind of like don't want to miss out. Is that fair?
Well, again, if you're talking institutions who are funds that have a large number of limited partners, like in a hedge fund, et cetera, one of the things that they'll get fired for or lose their capital is if they're the one that missed out on some huge opportunity. It's like, why am I in you and you're paying all these fees? I'm paying all these fees and you missed out on this, and the other thing. And so they have to, they're being paid to outperform the market. So they have to make some riskier bets. And a lot of times they do follow the herd.
It's interesting, right? Because obviously there's some sort of error there with the economic incentive. But okay, speaking of economic incentives, right now, like people are really starting to experience a recession. But do you think that this is a good thing long term? Like, do you think now is the time to sort of be all in on the space, or like what would your strategy be in this sort of trying time?
This is not new. Crypto tends to work in 4-year markets, just like the stock market tends to work in 10-year markets. Except with the stock market, usually most years are up, and then you have a couple of years that are down drastically. And with crypto, you usually have one up year, big up year, out of 4, and you have 3 years, 1 year it's big down, and then 2 that are somewhere in between. This past year was the big down, and so that's when everybody's saying, "Oh, sell, sell, sell." It's going to go down to 6,000 or whatever the worst case fear situation is. But if you look historically, this is the best time to slowly, buy back in, because with retail out and with a lot of short sellers in, bad news gets amplified much more than it would during a bull market or even a sort of sideways market. And so, there may be one more, shoe to drop. But there's so many people that are looking to buy at, under 10,000 or 11,000 that it's very possible that it never gets down there. That happens every market. And so you just have to be very cautious. But, in general, with these 4-year cycles, if you buy it in the bottom 20% of the market crash and you sell in the top 20%, you've doubled to tripled your money, even this last cycle, and you did way better than that in the 2 cycles prior.
We only have 20 seconds. Just a yes or no. Do you think this is the last crypto winter before the space goes mainstream?
No.
Oh, provocative. We got Michael Terpin here on Daily Drop.